Hello and welcome to Toledo Aquaponics. This is currently day 21 and I'm just doing a quick update. This is the third batch of seeds that I planted inside, again under one of the nanodomes using the AOK grow plugs as well as the AOK starter tray. I have a bunch of these guys that are doing really well. I have a relatively large range of different kind of like veggies and even all the way down to like some lemongrass here on the end. Out in the main system, I'm doing pretty well. My ammonia is regularly dropping down to 0 ppms within 24 hours. However, my nitrites are still a little high. That is perfectly normal. Typically, that will lag behind by a couple days. It is slowly dropping. I mean, I can visually see it is dropping a little bit, but it's not back down to 0. Once both my ammonia and my nitrites are at 0 and within 24 hours, I'll be ready for my fish. So I'm almost there. I'm basically a little over the halfway point. It'll probably only be a few more days before I'll be really ready to start moving some stuff in. I have had to weed out some of the little, like I said, sacrificial plants. Some of the lettuces that I transplanted that weren't in any sort of like grow plug or anything else like that didn't do too well. Some of them went brown and just died on me because the roots, the stone that I have doesn't really shield them from the light very well. So they didn't really work out too well. But that, like I said, they're kind of sacrificial. I mostly put them in there to soak up the nitrates so I can kind of get a better idea of exactly what's going on in the system. And they definitely did their job. So these guys are kind of just chugging along. Some of these guys are going to take longer than others. The spinach, both this row here as well as this row here, which is spinach, are definitely going to take probably the longest. It looks like this is another spinach here down this column. Again, is going to take some time. The chives are coming up, the thyme's coming up, basically just coming left to right. I have some sugar snap peas, some dwarf pak choi. I have a special plant for my wife. It's one of her favorite flowering plants. And then spinach, which these guys are kind of thinking to start, but they're not quite there. I have some kale, buttercrunch lettuce, sorry, Black Simpson lettuce, which grows really well. This stuff grows really fast, so I'm going to have to probably thin this stuff down pretty quickly. I have another spinach, this one's a hybrid. Some chives that are starting and they're doing okay. I have some thyme, some Genovese basil, and then on the end here I just have some lemongrass, which I like in some of my teas. And I'm just kind of trying those out. It's just kind of a really quick and simple, easy to do plant. But that's just kind of a quick update. I'm still waiting for my main system to be completely cycled and ready for me to order fish. It's not far off now, but I'm going to wait till the system's cycled and ready because, I mean, I can sustain the system basically indefinitely off of dosing with ammonia. However, a lot of the other nutrients won't be there. So that's the only real drawback. That's what the fish and the fish food actually add to the system. So I need to kind of get to that point, but right now a lot of those plants are very new and very small. They're not going to be hurt a lot by kind of having a slow start there. The other thing is I've been using liquid seaweed to kind of get them started, which is a pretty decent analog for the aquaponics system because it's basically just straight nitrates. It's basically just straight nitrogen fertilizer. So it works really well because that's about what they're going to live in. And then they're also going to have the micronutrients and stuff over time. I'm not sure how well the sugar snap peas are going to do because they're more of a fruiting plant, but a lot of the lettuces and things like that should do okay. A lot of what's actually here, some of that's going to end up in my aquaponics system, some of it's going to end up in an indoor hydroponic system, as well as some might even end up in my outside hydroponic system. I have another hydroponic system that's going to go in the garage, that's going to be indoors, that is going to just be lit with artificial light, as well as I have a system that I'm putting, which is more of a traditional hydroponic system, that I'll be putting in my basement for kind of overwintering. And I'm going to have to keep a bunch of plants in there for now. And then as winter comes close, I'm going to either clone or completely move plants out of my aquaponic system into the indoor system. So that way I don't have to start over in case I do lose everything over winter. My plan is, especially in the garage, they should be fine. However, right now I have to open that garage door. And that garage door basically does a complete air change every time I open it. So it's theoretically, I'll shut down some of my plants, which they should still survive, honestly, because I'll keep the frost off of them for the most part. And the heat should stay relatively high. It should stay above freezing in there. So I shouldn't actually lose any plants. They will probably shut down and slow down, but hopefully everything else should stay there as long as I keep the water temperature high enough. As long as I can keep the ambient air high enough and the water temperature high enough to keep the bacteria alive, I can keep the fish alive. Fish aren't really too hard to keep. I just have to keep the water temperature up, and I have to keep the bacteria alive, which again, you keep the water temperature up, I should be able to keep the bacteria alive, and I shouldn't have too much of a problem. One of the tricks that I'm going to kind of do to that is I'm probably going to move maybe November or so, depending on, I'll have to see when my frost is supposed to start setting in. But I'm going to probably move I'm going to probably add some grow stone into my swirl filter to give a little bit more biological surface area for bacteria to colonize. So that way I kind of get that up and running. It'll take a while for those bacteria to really propagate, but that should get me to the point that I really have some decent bacteria in that filter. So as long as I keep those inside the swirl filter alive, I should have enough bacteria to keep the fish alive. Just kind of some overwintering ideas. I'm gonna have to plan those out a lot better over time. But so far, these are my indoor plants. Here's the little hood that goes over it. Typically that sits on top of it, but I took it off to kind of show you guys. But that's just kind of like some of my quick thoughts. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And if you have any suggestions, I would love to hear them. I'm willing to try just about anything, as long as it's kind of relatively, been proven. I'm willing to try out some of the other things in some of like my small systems, but the main system is going to have to be tried and true methods. These are going to be things that I've done personally in the past, as well as I've witnessed people do either via YouTube or in person also in the past to kind of keep everything up and running. And like I said, my fail-safe is going to be I'm going to probably clone some of those plants inside. And that way I'm not starting from over. And that's the other thing, is I'm going to probably do cloning after these initial startings of seeds and things. I'm going to probably clone a lot. I'm going to probably see if I can get some plants, especially like some of the really good ones, to kind of shape to how exactly I want them for the aquaponics system, and continuously clone those, so that way I end up with this really nice stock of plants that are really well built for my aquaponics system, and I can just kind of, they're nice, they're bushy, they work really well. And out in the garage I have 7-foot plus ceilings. So because I have a garage and my garage is basically open air above that, I can kind of raise my grow lights as high as I want them to. Whereas indoors, you have your standard 8-foot, you have your standard ceilings and everything else. You're going to end up running into some limits. I have, God no, it's a lot higher than 7 foot. But either way, I still have pretty high ceilings that I can go through and do out in the garage. Indoors, not so much. You have to really keep stuff small. And I will cover some of that in the basement system. My basement roofing is actually finished. So I'm going to be using a fast fit grow tray to be able to house a 2x4 tray that I'll be putting the whole system in. I'll have a little 20-gallon reservoir to power the whole thing. And then I'm going to be using an LED grow light to keep everything kind of uniform, basically, and give me a little bit more control down there. And then I'll have some supplemental, like probably LED lights that I'll use as well. But I'm going to kind of cover those in future videos. Right now the system's not even built. I do have the area planned for it. It should work pretty decently. I shouldn't have to add Mylar or anything to the walls because they're all flat white out there. But I will be testing for that too, and I will probably end up building some sort of frame around it, because the one wall is just normal, drywall and wood and whatnot. The other wall is a concrete wall, and I don't want to have to drill into that to be able to attach some of like the grow netting to be able to keep some of these plants small and keep my canopy down, because that is going to be a serious concern down there, because it is technically a finished basement. So I can't even like mount the lights up into like the risers or anything, like up into the upper ceiling area. It's actually got like ceiling panel up there, so I'm going to be very limited on space. So I'm going to max out my fast fit grow tray as high as it goes, but I'm still going to have some issues with height, because I'm going to have to, just to be able to get the reservoir under there, I'm going to have to raise the height of the fast fit tray off the ground a little bit, and that's going to cause some problems. I may put the reservoir on like the side or something, but I'm going to have to play with reservoir designs, because that's going to be a problem that I'm going to have. Because like even like with something like this, let's say you wanted to, say that your grow tray was up here while you have all that space down there. Well, if your reservoir is taller than, say, that second shelf there, so I might be able to lower that a little bit, but that's still going to really start to cut into my vertical space here, which is very limited. So that's going to be a serious problem that I'm going to have to deal with, is how do I go to a reservoir proper size that's shallow enough but still hold the volume of water I need to be able to support the plants? Because especially with hydroponics, even with aquaponics, the larger your reservoir is, the better off you're going to be, because it's going to, especially in hydroponics where your nutrients becoming toxic becomes a really serious issue, the more reservoir you have, the longer time it takes before that happens. If I had like a little 5-gallon reservoir to run the whole system, I'd have to be really, really careful that I don't kill my plants, because that stuff can become really toxic really quickly depending on how much I have to top off the system. So I'm going to start with a minimum of like a 20-gallon reservoir. I will probably go up from there, but I need to find something shallow enough. I was looking at even like a 27-gallon like tote, like what I used in my outdoor hydroponic system. That little rugged XXL tote that I got from Lowe's, that's 27 gallons, which would work great, and I filled that up to about the 20-gallon mark. That'd be fine, but that's still alone, that's still 2 feet high. So that's 2 feet of vertical growing space I lose because I have a tote that big. So I'm going to probably play around with some smaller designs and see if I can find something else. And then also I can also reduce the legs on the grow tray. They do make a reduction, but the reduction takes my vertical space almost completely gone. So that's one of the biggest issues, is I don't want to have to put 2 pumps into the system. I'm going to find a way to either gravity feed the system. So either I'm going to have to use a pump to drain the grow bed itself and raise that up to the sump and then gravity feed from the sump, or I'm going to have to, which is another type of design that I don't really like using, but I've used it before when I've really had to. But that's kind of just some of the things I'm going to have to deal with. And like I said, I'll cover that in a later video. So again, this is just a day 21 update. This ran a lot longer than I was supposed to, and I'm sorry for that. But that's just kind of some thoughts and some overwintering thoughts, as well as kind of some of the future plans for what all I'm doing out here. So thank you.